necessarily do the exact same things. Some days I do. Some days, like when we have less to do, I might. Oh, see, it's actually transcribing. So you can read it. You don't have to see it. You can read it. You want to listen to it. Hopefully it's recorded. Oh, I know what I need to do. This will now share the screen so that it'll show when I write on the whiteboard, which I'm not going to do yet, but I will in a minute. I'm sorry, smartboard, not whiteboard. So those addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, those are examples of math, and the word is operations, is what that's called. I know, wake up. Operations. Do you know how to spell operations? O-P-E-R. I'm going to write it up on the board, but oh, there we go. So math. Math operations. And you should have heard of the phrase order of operations. There's a thing called order of operations. That has to do with the order that you do math in. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? That's why I say we're all in the same boat. We always make sure when somebody is willing to say something, we treat that answer with respect. We don't laugh, even if it's somebody you know. We don't laugh at it. That intimidates other people that maybe are scared to speak up. Even if you know the person that said it, we don't laugh at any answers. All answers are good answers. Because at least they were willing to give an answer. Some people struggle with it. So now you will have heard of this. How about Pim Nos or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally? That sounds. Raise your hand if that sounds familiar. That's what order of operations is. It tells you what order you do math in. So what do we start with if we use those letters? What's the P stand for? Parentheses, right? So again, this is the order. Ooh, that's why I teach math. Gotta be an E, right? I'm recording this, so if I just made a spelling error. So parentheses, then what's E? Exponents, correct, which we will do a lesson on exponents more toward the end. Parentheses are gonna come into play in our very first lesson, which will be, I think we'll get to it in our next class. Certainly this week. The M and the D are a little bit different. I shouldn't have written it exactly like that, but I'll fix it. What's the M stand for? What's the D stand for? Here's the trick on that. These are kind of actually together. You don't do multiplication first every time and then division second. You actually do whichever one comes first. So let's say you've gotten rid of all the parentheses, you've gotten rid of all of the exponents, and then what you have left is this. You have that. We don't skip all the way over and do 4 times 6. We do it left to right. Once all we have left is division and multiplication, we would just go left to right from here. So 2 divided by 4 would be 1/2. 1/2 times 6 is 3. That's the correct answer. If we would have done multiplication first, we would have said 4 times 6 is 24, and then we would have come backwards and said, okay, well 2 divided by 24, and we would have gotten a really small decimal number, which would have been wrong. So write that in your notes. Make sure you understand. Once you're down to this step, and I can't always put like every single word in there that I need to when I write up on the board, so you use your own words. Yes, ma'am.
So what was the
Did you get the parentheses and exponents? Did you get those two? Okay, so you kept me the exponents. So that's the note I'm putting in there. Here's the problem I have, and they want us to like force you to take notes and make sure, which I get it, but at the same time, if the notes don't mean anything to you, they're no good. So don't just write down what I write. Don't just write down what I say. Add your own explanations to that. So if what I wrote down there doesn't completely make sense to you, you need to try to explain that yourself. Like maybe put this example over there and say, you know, hey, in this example, you do the division first because you're going left to right. But you need to explain it so that when you go back on the test later and you see what you wrote down, you know what to do with it. Way too many people, I go in their notes and they've got it, but they have no idea what it means. None whatsoever. Which is why I help you understand your notes. Oh, did you just get all of that? Or you wait for the what I just did? Okay. I'm just making sure. I don't really check notes. Like again, notes are for you to do well in the class. I'll come back and help you on a test if you show me your notes and it's in there, but I'm not going to sit next to people and make sure they wrote stuff down. Don't have time for that in the class this week. And then the last one then would be what? AS, and it's the same thing. Left to right. So again, if you have it down to just addition and subtraction left, you would go left to right and you would do subtraction first and then addition if that's what comes first, left to right. So for example, I'll change colors so it stands out a little bit. If I had this to subtract 4 plus 7, sometimes it doesn't matter. You still get the same answer, but just make sure you do it left to right. So in here, I wouldn't do the 4 plus the 7 first. I would say 2 subtract 4 is -2. -2 plus 7 is +5. Yes, ma'am? Not just yet. Soon, very soon. Any questions on that order of operations? I can actually go over that later. I will go over it with them. I'll just do it when we do equations. All right, so now let's get to what an equation is. Tell you what, I'll do it in a different order here since we have somebody who wants to go to the restroom. I need volunteers to hand stuff out. Anybody like handing stuff out? Oh, nobody in this class. Tons of people in this class. All right. So if you want to go ahead and go now, Willow, you can go ahead and go now. I'm going to hand these out first. Once you get it, you can start solving it. So anybody that gets this one, I want to know how much is an elephant. And it gives you some information on there to help you figure that out. How much is an elephant worth? That's with the little elephant and then a question mark. There. We'll do one out, I think. And I'll give everybody else a different one. These are, I think I showed these to you the other day. Like you see these all the time on like Facebook. I don't know if you see it on. If you don't know what to do, I'm going to give some hints in a minute, but hopefully you have a pencil. I'm just kind of spreading them out a little bit. If you have this one, I want to know how much is 1 square worth. The one that I'm just now handing out. How much is 1 square worth? And this is the hardest one. So those of you that are left, well, it seemed I didn't think it was that much harder than the others, but the classes. Did you already get one? Yeah. This one. You guys all have one. Daniel needs one. So in this last one, you're trying to tell me what number should go in place of the question mark. Like what number should that be? You're done already? That's fast. Oh, I should have given one of these. So this is an example of a time when I've now turned it over to you. I expect you to work. Shouldn't be sitting there staring at a blank page. You should be trying to figure something out. If you don't know exactly what to do, then you need to say, hey, Mr. Gill, I don't know how to do this. If it's something we haven't done, if something that we have done, you need to check your notes. Because if we've done a lesson on it, you just have some notes on it. We haven't done a lesson on this. Anybody not know what in the world they're doing? Which one do you have? Actually, it's pretty similar. So I need you, Alex. So Alex has the zebra and the elephant one. So if you have the zebra and the elephant one, I'm going to help Alex, but I'm helping everyone. This is exactly the way doing work in class works. That's kind of what the purpose of it. So I would say, Alex, you're looking at a bunch of equations, is actually what you're looking at. They just don't have letters and variables. I'm sorry, letters and as the variables. They do have some numbers in there. The variables are represented by pictures instead of letters, but they're equations. So if you have an equation, and I'm going to give you one up here. Does everybody have that? Because I'm about to get rid of it. All right. So if I write this up on the board. So this is about what we're kind of giving. I'll give you an exact definition, but we're talking about what is an equation right now. Is that an equation? We said no. Somebody said yes. Somebody said thumbs up. Somebody else said yes. Why? Why or why not? What makes an equation an equation? Any idea? Like some people said yeah. Yes, ma'am. We can solve it. That's one of your hints. If you look at something, you say, well, I can figure out what that x is. What is the x? 4, right? If you can solve for the missing number, because that's a variable is a missing number, a placeholder for a missing number. If you can solve, then it's probably an equation. Yeah, that's what we did last week. You should already have that. But a variable is a placeholder for a missing number. We did that one on Thursday, I think. That's another hint that it's an equation, that right there. Like literally equation, the first part of it is EQUA, just like equal sign. So there's another hint that it's an equation that you might be able to solve for it. I'm going to tell you exactly what you should write down for what an equation is, though. And you won't always be able to solve an equation, but it could still be an equation. Let me let Willow in for one to hear this. So we're about to do a definition that you need to have. This is what is an equation. Definition of an equation. All an equation is it's just a rule that we have to follow. Just a rule. An equation is a rule. We've got to follow that rule. Typically with an equation, the rule is kind of sort of always the same. They'll look different, but the real rule is just the left side has to equal the right side. That's the rule, pretty much every single time. Now, the left side may look different and the right side may look different in all the different equations we work with. Obviously, they're not all going to be the same equations, but the general rule is just this, I'll do a different color, this left side, the left side is determined by where the equal sign is. You may want to make a note on that too. Have you solved for equations and drawn that line where the equal sign is? Like, you remember doing that in 8th grade? I mean, you should have already solved equations in 8th grade and 7th grade. We draw a line where the equal sign is because that separates the left and the right side. I don't care how much stuff is on one side. Like, let's say we had 100 things on the left side and only one thing on the right side. Well, we'd still draw a line where the equal sign is, and the left side would be left of that, the right side would be right of that. You're not trying to draw a line, like it doesn't matter where the middle is what I'm saying. It's where the equal sign is. So an equation, the general rule is saying the left side needs to equal the right side. That's it. That's all an equation is. Then you look at specifically what's in it. So in this case, x plus 3, which is on the left, needs to equal 7, which is all that's on the right. So what does x have to be in order for the left side to equal the right side? Just 4. That's it. That's all an equation is. We just have to make sure when we solve for the variable, x equals 4. I guess I shouldn't write it like that. 4. We'll get back to how to solve them later. That was an easy one, so I'm not even worry about it. That's all an equation is. Now, you can't always solve them though, so I'm going to give you another quick note, and then we'll get back to the little activity. How do you know if you can solve an equation or not? Because sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And I don't expect you to know the answer to this, I'm just going to give you the answer. If you have one variable and one equation, you can solve for the variable. So write it down. If you have one variable, one equation, you can solve for that variable, just like we did. I don't care how hard the math is, if we only have one variable in that equation, we can solve. And by one variable, I mean it can be, you can see that variable in multiple places. You might see something like this. There. That bottom one where I have x plus 4 plus x equals 10. Well, you see two x's, but that still is just having one variable. There's only an x in there. It shows up in different places, but that doesn't matter because no matter where it is, it has to be the same number. That's what having only one variable means. There's only one unknown number. Everywhere you see x, it's going to be the same number. We just don't know what that number is yet. It'll never be a 4 over here and then a 2 over here. Or vice versa. It'll never be a 2 over here and a 4 over there. It's got to be the same number in both places. What's the number going to be?
6.
Ooh, is it? So what if I put in 6 for both x's? Is that equal to 10? So you knew what the total unknown quantity was, but each individual x has to be what? 3. So we'll get to how to solve. I'm not super concerned about solving just yet. The key is one variable, one equation, you can solve for that variable. I don't care how difficult the math is, you'll be able to solve for it. Now, whether or not you know how to solve for it's another issue, but you can. There's a way to do it. If you have two variables, one equation, you can't solve it. It's impossible to solve. There's too many possible answers. You can't say this is the one and only answer. Like, for example, if I change this x to y, so now I put a y in there, right? Take a guess. You could say, well, Mr. Gill, sure you can solve that. Because you just, x could still be 6 and y could be 6. And that's, well, actually, that's not 10, but 6. X could still be 3 and y could still be 3. And they could be the same number. Like sometimes a different variable will still be the same number. But I would say, well, yeah, but that's not the only answer. I could make x 4 and I could make y 2. And that would also be correct. Or I could make x 5 and make y 1. There's not a single answer. Like we can't solve it. Solving means, yeah, I know that's the answer. There's not another answer that works. That's what solving means. So anyway, go ahead, work on your sheets. I'm going to give some hints. Which one? So the first thing you start with, the reason I did this, find, again, these are just equations because there's an equal sign and I have, these are variables. Find an equation where you only have one variable. That's the first thing you would do in these. The one with all the numbers is a little different. That's just more of a pattern. Yours is more of a, this is really more of a pattern. It's not really equations so much. You would use an equation to solve it as a final answer, but just try to find the pattern in that. These are equations, and the one with the zebras are equations. You need to find the equation that only has one variable. Which equation only has one variable in this one? There's only one shape, basically. Shapes are variables. Which one? Yeah, the triangle. There's only triangles in there, right? That's one variable. You should be able to solve out and tell me what one triangle is worth. What's one triangle worth? It's 3, because 3 plus 3 is 6. So now you know what a triangle is. So now you should be able to solve for the bottom one. Once you solve for the bottom one, you should be able to solve for the top one. So we had 3 variables here, but we also have 3 equations. That's why we can solve for all of them. This man. Oh yeah, you're out. I hear you. Just take that one. Just take that. No, you're doing that. So if you're doing the one with zebras and elephants, same concept on that one. Which one only has 1 variable? Top one, right? There's 2 zebras, but they're both zebras, so that counts as 1 variable. So how much is a zebra worth? Actually, the same, 3 on that too. So now that you've solved for that, you should be able to go down here and figure out what an elephant is. Although, I'm sorry, it's an elephant, and then this line, and then this 4 thing. You got to figure out what that means. But you should know what these zebras are worth now once you solve for them up there. So I'll let you work on that for a minute, and then we'll talk about it. I'll give you like 2 minutes. Please work on it. This is kind of for me to see who's going to be working and who's not. Because you have to be putting effort into this class. The classwork is your easy grade. Earbuds should be out. No phones, no earbuds. What's that?
Which one do we discuss?
Oh, I don't know. You're not worried about that. You got work to do. You guys don't need to worry about when we leave this class. You need to be worried. And you don't pack up early. You will pack up when I tell you I'm done. You can pack up. Just because you see that, first of all, that's like 4 minutes past. Just because you see that getting closer, don't pack up. Because a lot of times I haven't gotten to what I need to get to because I know it's on the test, and I'm trying to get to it. So the last 2 or 3 minutes could be the most important 2 or 3 minutes. I'm trying to get to something so you have it in your notes for the test. And if you're packing up because you see we're getting near the bell, you're going to miss some important stuff. And it just drives me crazy. Who had the question? All right, so I'll give you, what do you got, another minute? You should have, well, I mean, we kind of already solved for part of it. Who is working on the one with the squares and all the numbers and question mark, the one that I showed earlier? That one's a little trickier. I'll tell you, you're looking for a pattern. So the squares that have all numbers, like there's no question mark, there's a pattern to why those numbers are where they are. You got to figure out what that pattern, or I guess pattern is the right word. You got to figure out what that pattern is. It's the same pattern for each one that has all the numbers. Then, once you know the pattern, you got to figure out what is the correct number for the missing number to keep the pattern the same for that set of squares. All right, so who thinks they have an answer for, we'll do the zebra one first. I think that one's not too bad. Well, actually, we'll do the square, circle, triangle. Anybody have an answer for that? You got one for that? So we got 4 for Mr. Wesley. Anybody else get 4? Got 4? I don't even remember what else. You got 4 also? That one wasn't too bad. Again, the main concept is, just for everybody else, and this is one of the points of this activity, don't ever leave a blank paper in front of you. Like, there should be something you could do. In this case, and if there's not, then you better have your hand up asking me a question. Hey, I have no idea to start. Very rarely will I not give you something where you could at least try something, and I already gave you the hint. You should have been able to figure out, certainly after we all figured it out together, a triangle plus a triangle has to be the same number. So what number plus itself equals 6? Well, we said 3. At the very least, next, you should go down here and say, okay, well, if I know a triangle is 3, I could replace this triangle, and I could write, I'm going to get rid of all of that. I could write, what is the equation? A circle. That's not a 0, by the way. That's a circle. I guess I can shade it in. A circle plus 3, because we just solved that a triangle is worth 3. So a circle plus 3 equals 5. So now you can probably, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable that everybody should be able to solve that. What's a circle worth? 2, right? Well, this is not a 0. That's why I colored it in. It's a symbol. It's the circle. I don't know who said 0. It's not a 0. It's a symbol that is a circle. It's like a variable. And we want to know, what does that variable equal? Well, what number plus 3? Because this is the rule. Remember, an equation is just a rule. The rule is the left side needs to equal the right side. Well, the only way to get this side to be 5 is to make a circle worth 2, because 2 plus 3 is 5. So we now know what a circle is. So now we can come back up to the top one, and we can replace the circle with the number 2, because we just solved for a circle. And then we can say plus a square and another square. So plus 2 squares. Well, that might be a little confusing, and I think it's worth 10. Maybe we're not completely sure what that 2 squares things mean, but what does this whole thing have to be here?
8.
Yeah, if we want to get to 10, again, if that's the rule, there. If we want to get to 10, and we know the rule is the left side has to equal the right side, this whole thing right here under my hand, this whole thing, whatever, oh, I don't want to draw a circle, that might get confusing, since we're using shapes. Hold on. That has to be 8, so the way you figure it out is 2 squares, you divide by 2 and you get 4. We didn't get to what I wanted to get to, that's fine. We're doing actual math tomorrow, so we'll get into equations tomorrow. This was kind of just the intro as far as running equations. I missed a couple of things. Wow, I don't know why we were behind in this. Should have set my timer for me. Again, if you want to, you don't have to keep this paper unless you wrote notes on it. It was just an activity. If there's no notes on it and no real practice problems, you don't have to keep the stuff I give you, which will happen every once in a while. My glasses. Lunch people ask me that. I will stop that.
Can you at least tell me if I did this right?
Oh yeah, I didn't get to that one, did I? What did you get?
13.
No, how did you get 13?
Because like I thought, okay, so this is 5, and these 2 are 6. So I thought.
What do you mean this is 5?
Like, so I thought it was like this goes up.
So you're
5.
saying you add 5
Yeah.
every time? Well, the thing is, you would have to add 5 every time, going from that square to that square, which is not what happens.
So I thought like that was the
Do you want to keep trying, or do you want me to tell you what it is? Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you it's based on multiplying. There's some kind of pattern using multiplication. So I want you to take that with you.
That sucks. I was so confident too. I thought I got it.
Hey, at least you tried to figure out some logical method. Again, the point of that was just try. That really was all the point was, so you did.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Adrian was absent. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. How do I mark them absent?